Thank you all very much for coming. Obviously, this is a terrible thing. On Monday night, we were informed that the investigators were looking for information that could be highly explosive. On Tuesday, we were informed that they had the police report in Baltimore. On early Wednesday morning, after they had corroborated that they had received the report legally and that we had had the evidentiary receipts, etc., for the securing of the report, I was told of its explosive nature and asked to read it because I'm the presiding officer. Upon reading the report, I was sickened. And I was informed that the workings of the committee had been again delayed by the attorney, saying that she and her client would not show up on Wednesday for a. No, I'm sorry. Wednesday was when they were supposed to show up. That was the day. So it was. I wanted to see him earlier, and. So right after floor, I asked to see Mr. Stringer, and I confronted him with my knowledge of the report, and I asked for his resignation, and that he would fill it out immediately, and informed him that it would be best that he left the property also immediately, which he did. I am very aware, having grandchildren and children, and all of you in the public and with our families and loved ones, that this is very disturbing, and especially to us with the trust. And I want to maintain that trust in the integrity of this institution, that we can feel safe here with our families and our children and tours and loved ones. And I am happy only to the fact that Mrs. Fernandez and I, we are very much in sync on providing safely for the accommodation of the public in this, their house, and their children and families. Ms. Fernandez, please.
Thank you all for being here. I'm Representative Charlene Fernandez. I'm the House Minority Leader, and I'm speaking for 29 members that we are also very distressed at what we've heard, what we've seen. I've been talking to my members all day. We are here to work with the Speaker and with the Republican majority. And by the way, this is not a political issue. This is an Arizona State Legislature issue. We need to put together some new protocols of how we do our business here, and maybe look at what kind of people run for office. We worry about people's financials when they get ready to run for office. I think we need to start looking into people's backgrounds. We need to hold ourselves to a higher level. I am proud to serve in this office and in this legislature. But it's really distressing today because I wonder what the public thinks about us. I'm urging anyone that might have any cause to worry to contact advocacy groups all over Phoenix, Arizona, that are there to help you. If you feel the need, you can contact law enforcement. But if you just go to our Facebook page, Arizona House Democrats, we have a list of advocacy groups that are there to help you and support you in any way, shape, or form. Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions?
Let me start off with something Ms. Fernandez said. You know, we look into people's financial backgrounds, but we should be looking into their own backgrounds. Is that really the role of the House? We assume that the political foes and others and journalists will look into this. Is that really the role of the legislature, to be looking into the personal backgrounds of people?
I would say that if you're going to run for office, the people that support you would want to know who you are and where you came from. And if they care about what your financial background is and where you spend your money and what holdings you have, that they would care if you have some type of a record somewhere. Maybe we need to be fingerprinted. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I do think that we need new protocols in place.
Is it sort of like the box you check on the application says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Is it something that you think we need for legislative candidates or candidates for office?
We don't ban the box for people that apply for a job.
I think we're getting off.
Well, okay.
What is most important to me is that the people who come into this house are safe, that the people who work in this house are safe. I think your role is a definite need for the review and background of what we do. I have a fingerprint card from other occupational demands, but I'm not here to institute some new background check on everybody that works around government, but to mourn with families that suffer these types of abuses, to assure my staff and our people here that they are safe, and that there's and as I have spoken to staff, no staff here or in this, anybody that I'm working with here needs to ever suffer any abuse of any kind from anyone, and if they do, they should come and report it to me immediately.
Are you suggesting that there was, these are incidents from 1984, are you suggesting that there may have been something
No.
since? Okay.
No, I just want us to know that Charlene and I, that we are united in making sure that as much as we can, that this body and this place is a place where people can feel safe to do the people's business. Beyond that, all of us are an open book. I shouldn't say that. Some of us may have a closed book. That's obvious. But the background information that was gleaned by a journalist, whether we can talk about the ways and means, but it was gleaned, and that absolutely accelerated the Ethics Committee work, focused the Ethics Committee work, and legally we were able to obtain information that resulted in the resignation of a member. We're not afraid to do that. And we took that responsibility seriously, the Democrats and Republicans on this committee, and we arrived at this conclusion, and I'm glad that's over with.
When I spoke to
Can you elaborate on how you legally obtained the police report? Can you share any more information about how you obtained that document?
I don't know all of how there's an investigative firm in Baltimore hired by our legal counsel who were employed in that effort to find out as much information in that area as they could, as well as other areas here in the state. The charge of that committee was very serious to me, and they did secure it, and they informed us of that, and we moved with dispatch.
Did Stringer say anything to you about the allegations, about the information in those reports?
I had a conversation with Mr. Stringer, and it was sufficient for him to know that I wanted this to end and I wanted his resignation, and he gave it to me.
Did he respond to all the allegations or explain the position of the case or anything like that?
I don't want to misquote or get into any of that. All I want you to know is I wanted him to resign, and I wanted him to resign immediately, and he did.
Did he still maintain his innocence?
You should try to talk to him.
We have.
We have, and we've
I'm
talked
not aware of any of your conversations.
I was on the phone earlier with Carmen Chanel, who said the incidents in the police report did not happen.
That's for another day's deal. As far as I'm concerned, the fact that there was a report of such horrendous impact, I don't think I could work or that any of his colleagues could work in good conscience in that type of atmosphere, and I asked for him to leave.
Do you know if there were any current law enforcement investigations regarding his conduct in America or internationally?
I do not know. I'm not aware.
So let's come back to sort of where I started. I know you said you're not going to implement any new procedures. We're not going to start fingerprinting.
No, in this press conference,
Okay.
those are discussions that the minority leader and I need to have.
So
I'm open to those discussions. What do we need to do to assure that we can move forward and people can have confidence, as much as is possible in the political arena, in the membership of this House?
So you're
So there's
open to
been
the
some
idea
discussion.
of fingerprinting? And
I'm open to the idea of a discussion. I'm not trying to preclude anything, but right here in front of the press, I don't think is where we need to make this deliberation.
Democrats attempted to expel him earlier this session. Do you regret not pushing on this or
The
taking action
Democrats,
earlier?
my recollection of that was because he was a racist. And this is far, in my view, horrendous.
Things would have been a lot easier, though, if we had taken that.
If we're here to make divisive, I don't want to go there. We have a unity on what has happened. We can we can take shots on other things, but I want the public to know that we responded fast and expeditiously to resolve this.
A question about, we've heard that possibly he had, when groups came to the Capitol to see him, that he would ask to meet privately with the children in the group.
I'm not aware of that
Okay.
myself.
We've also heard that he may have been a student teacher or worked in a school somewhere in Arizona in the last year or two. Are you guys aware of anything like that?
I believe that he had received a master's degree, was seeking to get teacher or secured some type of teaching profession. I know he had, the committee has shown, and others, I believe, had shown that he had a card, he'd received a fingerprint card, much like what I carry, and that was secured.
Was there any consideration for the ethics committee or the outside counsel hired to follow up with anyone who reached out to them? I know in that document dump there were a number of individuals who reached out about their bad experiences with Mr. Stringer when they came to the Capitol to visit. Is there any follow-up of any kind with those types of folks, out of an abundance of caution, perhaps?
Obviously, with the proceedings in motion, I did not want to exercise any presence with any witness at all. I gave full authority to the committee to move forward and did not exercise any direction to the committee.
And we want everyone, I don't mean to interrupt, but we want everyone to know that that committee is a bipartisan committee, and I think it did its due diligence. I'm really proud of the work that they did. They met every Friday. I was not privy to what they were doing, and I can't speak for the speaker on that. I just am pleased that it is a committee that worked together on this issue.
But that comes back to the original question. With his resignation, the committee has no more charge.
That's correct.
So this is the end of anything else that comes about Mr. Stringer.
The documents that were presented to you is the documents that the committee had and the exhibits that the committee had. It wasn't necessary to finish a report, such as the document or the work papers that you have, whatever they were. You have it. If there's any further documents that may need working, that is, I don't know of any, that would be forthcoming, but the committee's task is ended as there is no more member.
I guess what I was asking is, based on what you've seen in the documents, is there anything that concerns you, anything that, as Speaker, you want to follow up on? I know that the charge of this particular investigation has ended with Stringer's resignation, but do you want to pursue any of that further in a different map?
We got to make sure you know, I have not read all the papers that are available. I read that. I know that people came to me, and I immediately referred them to the committee chairman and to the investigators. If we solicited, we asked anyone that has any information relative to this member that is of a nature that was appropriate to the committee, we want you to come forward. And we made available the channels to get it to this bipartisan committee. And several did, I'm given to understand. If there is any residual need, I am happy to speak with people and offer whatever comfort or help. But I have not read all of what they testified or presented to the committee.
Has the minority leader heard any of these concerns we're hearing about private meetings at the Capitol that Stringer had asked for with children? Have you heard anything to that respect?
Yes, and of course it was referred to the Ethics Committee. Absolutely.
Okay, and I haven't seen any of that in these records. Is that being investigated further, or is that somewhere in these records?
That I don't know. The Ethics Committee is very, very careful about what they release. They release obviously very little, and we would just refer people to the Ethics Committee.
Representative Fernandez, getting back to the need to look into people's backgrounds, do you envision maybe a plan where the parties would just, as a matter of course, do those investigations?
I think that would be appropriate. I do think that would be appropriate.
How much does this disrupt the business of state? I mean, this is the second year in a row that we've had, legislators where there's been a scandal related to something of a sexual nature that has resulted in an ethics investigation that, results in, a dramatic resignation or expulsion. I mean, how are you guys able to go about your regular business when all of this drama is happening?
It's very difficult when we go back into our districts, and I'm speaking for the 29 of us. When we go back into our districts, we want to talk about the work that we're doing here, the bills that are passing or not passing, and yet we're faced with questions like this. So it does set us back.
I'm very grateful that the county in Yavapai is responding quickly so that we can fill the vacancy and go on, hopefully, to have some degree of normalcy going in a very difficult part of the session. But it has been an impediment to the good working order of the place, and I'm hopeful that it won't happen again. But when it does happen, we haven't shied away from it. And one thing about calling the committee, having proper bipartisan nature in the committee, working through, plodding through in a very organized fashion. The committee, the process is critical here. One might call it due process in this aspect, but the process of making law is critical, and it's part of my and Ms. Fernandez's responsibility to make sure that process is followed and that we respect it. And I think, in my opinion, the committee did that up to this point. When this was revealed, I'm grateful that we brought this to a rapid conclusion.
When does the Board of Supervisors meet? I've been hearing Tuesday, Wednesday. When does the board meet to finally vote for a new?
I'm really not sure. I'm of the opinion that they were going to meet initially on Sunday. Then they would hopefully have names and then a pick on Wednesday. But that's just secondhand to me. It wasn't told straight to me.
And I talked with Noel Campbell yesterday, and just getting back to the real business here, he says that casting votes is going to be a little bit more difficult now with a 30 to 29 breakdown. Assuming everybody votes on party lines. Do you agree with that, or?
If we had to stay with 30 and 29, that would certainly be difficult. But that's why we're working quickly to at least regain the elected stature of numbers, and we'll move on from there. It's always difficult. You have to move things as you can, and keeping people on the floor and keeping them focused is an important part of our job.
And you've been through this twice in the past just over a year now.
Yes, we have.
Is there any discussion about the pay scale for state legislators, and maybe that if the pay went up, you'd attract, a greater number of people who were, people.
I've heard of some very wealthy people of late who have indulged themselves in ways they shouldn't.
And unfortunately or fortunately, the state of Arizona, our voters are the ones that make that decision.
Absolutely.
And based on the work that we're doing right now, I don't think they'd increase our pay.
Let me ask an obvious question. I listened to your testimony yesterday on a bill dealing with issues of what happens when people are younger. I realize that Mr. Stringer was like 35 or 36 when this occurred. But we're also talking about an incident that occurred in 1982 and 1983. Given, again, I don't know whether he's done anything in the interim, but this is the only facts on the ground. Given the fact that we are talking decades later, you still believe that this arrest is still material to his ability to serve as a lawmaker?
And those are all questions that went through my mind, but not very long. When I read that report, Howie, I think of my ability to focus and do the people's work, not to be the judge and jury. I'm not a judge. There was a judge. Even that was scandalous. How this could happen is beyond my imagination, how a justice system could fail in this way, in my view. But yesterday's testimony was about youthful offenders with youth, and was based on the science, the best science that we have now, which shows that at exactly that time, 35 years, when those challenges occur, that's when the chance of recidivism drops like a stone. But the ones that you are most concerned with are the ones who begin at that time with youthful victims. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we're dealing with.
The police report in question, this was part of the expunged record. Our newspaper wasn't able to get the same police report. Can you explain a little bit more about how it was obtained legally?
Again, I don't know. I'm not the investigator back there, but they just kept working. I don't know to what lengths or how your paper addressed this situation. Maybe we should do a better job on your end and our end. But we did secure it, and it is a legal document. Any other questions?
Do you feel that if he would have produced this police report and told the full story at the get-go, months ago, weeks ago, that would have changed the ultimate outcome?
I don't think it would have changed the outcome. It just would have sped it up. That would have happened months ago.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you so much, Speaker.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
On the north side of the city.
Looks like mine.